When it comes to content creation, we can easily get lost in the weeds of feeling like we're always just having to create new. And although it's important that we're always bringing in fresh new content, I think oftentimes there's many people that look past the opportunity of repurposing the assets or the piece of content that we've already created, getting more eyeballs on that content itself, and doing it in a way that allows us to leverage our time and energy more efficiently. So in this video here today, what I'm gonna be sharing with you is 3 ways that I'm repurposing content in my business right now, and 3 ways that you easily can start doing the same. What's happening, guys? Blake here. If you're new, welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. In today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you 3 of my favorite ways to repurpose and multiply content. So when it comes to content creation as an online entrepreneur, it can be very difficult in the beginning stage to always think about, okay, I gotta come up with new ideas. I wanna make sure that the ideas that I'm writing on and sharing are actually having an impact on my audience. And through that process of constantly focusing on creating new, we can quickly forget about the fact that we're actually creating assets with each and every piece of content that we create, publish, and put out. Whether it's written, whether it's video, all of those pieces of content that we're putting out into the world onto our social platforms is an asset that we can leverage, not just in the one way that we're publishing it, but in multiple ways. So in this video, I want to share with you some ways that I like to take that piece of content I created and flip it into multiple other posts and multiple other pieces of content without having to go out and create a bunch more new things with that as well. So as we dive into this video here today, I'm gonna be sharing 3 of my favorite ways that we're repurposing content right now in our business. And at the end, I may touch on a few ways that we're actually planning to integrate going forward into future years through this year and into next year as well to really amplify this to a whole new level. But these are 3 ways that I'm going to be sharing here today as we dive into this that I do consistently that really has a big impact on me being able to extract more out of the one piece of content I'm making, get more eyeballs on that content, and ultimately bring in more traffic and leads into our business itself. And that's really the main point as to why we're repurposing this content. Not only is it to take our efforts that we're putting into making that video or writing that post and working to leverage those into multiple other assets that we can share and use without having to create a bunch more new stuff. It's also allowing us to get more eyeballs and more traffic on our content so more people can get to know us, come into our world, and see what we're all about. So as I'm talking through these 3 ways, before getting into the first one here shortly, I want to emphasize the point of thinking about this stuff as I talk about it in a way of looking at the big picture. I'm going to be mentioning specific platforms, such as my Facebook community, such as Facebook stories, such as my YouTube channel. But I want you guys to peel back and look at the big picture of this and understand that like what I'm talking about in this video and in these methods itself can really be cross-applied to whatever platform you're publishing on. Along with that, it can be cross-applied to whether you're using written content or whether you're using video content. So consider that as we dive into things here. And now we will dive right into method number 1, which is taking short form, medium form, and long form video and flipping that into 3 to 4 easy additional posts after making that one video itself. And this is something that I do really consistently. And it actually begins in one way. One example of this is starting with my free Facebook community, Unleash CEOs. So periodically I roll out a 5-minute Friday inside my private Facebook community itself. And this is just a 5-minute video of me providing value on a particular topic that either popped up in my business that week or a topic that I chose to talk on in that video. Once I record that video and publish it, or if I do it live and publish it in the group, what will end up happening is I have one video made, one asset created that's held inside that private community where only the members in that community can access. So at the time of publishing that video first, there's really only the set of eyeballs that can see it, aka the members of the community itself. Beyond anybody that's not inside my community yet, nobody else will see that piece of content itself. So how can we take that one video that I made just for my group and branch that into multiple posts and multiple other pieces of content to get more eyeballs on it and to get more members into that group itself? This is exactly what I do here. So diving into a screen share here to walk you through this step by step and show you exactly how I think about this process of repurposing video content and repurposing content in general. Let's start by emphasizing or talking about this starting point of this community post. Now, for those of you out there running a private community, just like myself here as I'm talking through this example, one thing I want to note is the fact that for me, my private community is insider information. And a lot of times I like to keep particular content private just for that community itself. So I'm not one to always take what I'm sharing in that community and post it across all their platforms. But what I will do periodically is pull some pieces of content out to give others an idea of what we produce inside that community and the value that we share. So more members can come into that group, we can capture more information, more leads coming in, and ultimately we're able to grow our audience and serve more people, allowing us to bring more people into our pipeline and grow our business. But with all that said, going back to this main point here of this starting step of one new community post, again, this could be a new YouTube video that you publish. This could be a new Facebook post you publish. Think of it less platform specific and more big picture strategy. So I'm starting with this one post. I'm making this one 5-minute video. From here, what I'm doing after I publish this insider video in my group, perhaps I want to take this video and share this one outside of my group just to give others that insight on this value that we provide. So what I do from here to get more eyeballs on this content is, next step I could do is take this footage that I just made for that group, download the video, go into my editor. There's a few different apps I can link below in this video that is helpful in doing this. Separate topic as a whole to talk about how to format these, but I want to show you this big picture. So I'm taking that 5-minute video and I'm breaking it down into a 30-second to 1-minute chunk and what I call a highlight that I feel is the biggest highlight of that piece of original content that I published. I'm pulling that highlight out, I'm putting it into a story post, and I'm sharing this on currently my Facebook story. So eventually we'll be repurposing and using this across Facebook story, across Instagram story, across other platforms. Right now, the primary platforms that we're active on are Facebook, YouTube. So we're really emphasizing leveraging content in the most ways possible on those two platforms itself. So I'm taking that video, sharing the highlight on my story, and then what I'll do at the end of that highlight is say, hey, if you want to check out this full video inside my group, either vote below on the poll or message me X to get access, and then I'll send them the link to my group to join, and then they can go join my group. We capture that lead information, and I'm able to tag them in that content or point them to this video itself, where they can start to consume this content from me, get educated from what I share, and see the value in what we offer. So this one additional touch point that takes literally an additional 10 to 15 minutes of work is already allowing me to expose this content to a completely new market of people on my friends list that wouldn't before see this. So we're already adding leverage to this one asset that we made by sharing it on my story. Now we're gonna add even more leverage by taking this original 5-minute video that I made again, downloading the whole thing, adding a few small effects to it, trimming it up and cleaning it up, and then perhaps publishing it on YouTube. So I put in 2 examples here to show you that we'll take these stories from Facebook, publish them as YouTube shorts on YouTube, as well as YouTube videos on YouTube, with the links below these videos all pushing back to one centralized objective, which is the group. So the content started in the group, we're pulling out one piece of that content itself, and we're distributing it and leveraging it across Facebook stories, across YouTube shorts, across YouTube videos, and now we've already taken that one asset and turned it into 4 pieces of content just like that. But we can take it a step further too. So aside from doing these 3 steps, and I'll zoom in here so you guys can see this further, the other thing that I do often, not every time, but often do, is come back to profile and share a post on this video that I just made. Just made X video in my group. We covered this, check it out. Now obviously that's a quick breakdown of it, but the point is we can come and talk about that video that we made on our profile after we made it, give a call to action at the end. If you want access, CTA, comment X below, and we'll get you the video. So just like that, we made one asset and we multiplied it into 5 assets in one day itself by not having to do any additional work besides pull out what we've already made and distribute it accordingly. And even when it comes to these written posts, especially when making long form video, oftentimes we can take this whole video itself and transcribe this into text. And you can take that text of what was all said in the video, and that alone is a great foundation for your post to come out and share that post and ultimately get more members in this community and more eyeballs on this one centralized starting video itself. So way number 1 is taking short form video, medium form video, and long form video and turning it into story posts, turning it into written posts, and using that one source as a way to leverage that across multiple avenues to get more eyeballs and point all back to the one place that you want to bring that traffic to itself. And in this example, it is the Facebook community. All right, so in the first way, we talked about how you can take new content that you're creating, let's say this week or today, and flip that into 4 to 5 additional posts that same day across multiple platforms by pulling out highlights and pieces of that content, sharing it across these platforms, and incorporating call to actions to point back to that one centralized spot where it all started. In this way number 2, what I'm gonna be doing is talking through how you can leverage previous content that you've created, previous assets that you've built, and bring those back to life through your marketing itself. So let's go back into screen share here and talk through this one. So let's say, for example, 3 months ago, or we can even go back further. We're gonna say previous content, let's say 3 to 6 months ago. So let's say 3 to 6 months ago, you created a series of 3 different videos throughout that month. And again, this can be written posts, this can be video content, whatever particular content that you find you enjoy producing the most, that's what I would focus on leveraging the most. In this particular example, we're talking through video content. So what I'm saying here in this one is the fact that we make these 3 videos, we make them for that month, 3 months passed, and now it's like those videos are just kind of floating around, and we put all that time, energy, and effort into making them, but are they really being seen by more people? And how can we make more people see them, or how can we bring them back to life? One way that I like to do this is looking back at previous content from 3 to 6 months ago, and I start by asking myself 2 questions. Number 1, of that previous content in that month, for example, which of those videos was like my number 1 fan favorite video? Which video did my fans or audience members seem to enjoy and get the most value from? That's the first question. Question number 2 is that video, once I find it, still relevant with what I'm sharing and what I'm talking on today? For the most part, it will be, but I like to ask myself that just to make sure that if I'm sharing previously created content, it's still relevant with what I'm sharing here today itself. So once they cross and tick those 2 boxes, I may come back to content from 3 to 6 months ago and pull out one fan favorite video. And an example we did recently was a live video that I hosted in my group, in my private community, that was with our content and copywriting coach, Todd Foster, on a particular training on our Venus flytrap method with content creation. So I knew that when I produced this live video with Todd 6 months ago, a lot of members of my group absolutely loved it. They really enjoyed it. They got a lot out of it. And there was a lot of engagement on that post itself and on that video. So coming back to this 6 months later, let's say I'm in a mode where I'm actually talking on content creation and how to actually create content itself. Rather than making a bunch of new assets on this topic, one easy thing that I could do to help save me time and energy is start to leverage some of those previous assets that I've already made and reshare those and bring them back to life. Because the reality is, although some people saw those in my group before and really enjoy the value that we shared, there's many new members in my community now that haven't even got to see what that video is all about. They didn't even know it existed. So we can expose them to that by pulling it back to life and repurposing it in a variety of ways, which we're gonna get into now. So we choose one of these videos. Let's say we take video 2 here. And what we can do is we say, okay, this is a fan favorite video. So in pulling out this fan favorite video, what I can do is actually share this across my email list, across my profile, do an email send on this, even pointing out the fact that, hey, this was a video that I went underground with our content coach on 6 months ago, and the members of our group really loved it. So I want to bring it back today to share with you guys the power of leveraging this in your content and how this can help you achieve this result. And just like that, we've taken an asset that was made 6 months ago that's now probably collecting dust. We've brought it back to life by pushing new traffic back to it off of the email list and off of our profile by putting a post out and asking people to comment if they want to check it out. Ultimately allowing us to not only bring new members into the group, but to also drive new eyeballs and traffic to this video where, again, they can consume that content, be educated in what we share. And if they relate and appreciate the value that we provided and relate to the strategies that we talk on, perhaps they become a lead and a client in our business. This is how we're constantly bringing people through our ecosystem, getting more eyeballs in our content, and still repurposing some of those assets that we made in months before. And again, this can still be cross-applied to written content. So one thing that I'll also do is, let's say I had a written post from 6 months ago that I know this was a top performing post for that month. It performed really, really well. I could bring that post back 6 months later, change the headline, make some tweaks to the copy that I feel accordingly to make it fresh and updated for today's post. But the foundation can stay the same because we know that the foundation worked. And this is where, when we're creating assets, we always want to look back and reflect and be aware of, okay, of all these new content assets that I'm creating and putting out, which ones are resonating with my audience the most? Which ones are getting the most engagement or getting the most appreciation from my audience itself? And those are typically the ones that we want to double down on and not only reuse again in the future, but think about creating more of those types of assets going forward with new content that we produce. Going into way number 3 that I like to easily repurpose content, this one's gonna be more focused on live video content. Repurposing content that you're creating live in that present moment and distributing it across multiple channels at once at that same point in time itself. So this is probably the easiest of the 3 ways to do, because at the click of a button, as we're going live and talking, we're putting this out across multiple platforms. To make this happen and to illustrate this more clearly, let's start by here just to show that, hey, let's say I'm making a live video on repurposing content, using this example here again. And let's say I wanna make this for my private community. And just like we talked on before, just like how I follow, where I typically like to keep most of my content private specifically for that community, periodically I will make some trainings in that group that I like to branch out to other platforms that we're on, just again, to get more exposure about what value that we provide in that community itself. So What I like to do periodically is take that private community video that I'm making and going live with, and we're gonna go live in that group. But I'm also going to cross stream onto my YouTube channel, perhaps onto my profile, and maybe even onto another private group from a different product that we offer. And just like that, when we click go live, not only are we just going live in this one spot and just getting eyeballs from members of our community here, but we're going live across our YouTube channel, across our profile, across our private Facebook group. And now we're just putting this live video out on 4 different channels, getting that many more eyeballs on this content and bringing that many more new people into our world. And the beauty is we don't have to stop here. This is one thing that we can do on the spot live using a tool that I'm gonna walk through here next. But we can also take this cross-streamed live video and come to our story afterwards like we did in example 2, share a quick highlight of that on our story and get more traffic back to one of these sources to watch the full training on itself. We can share that tease in the story to generate interest and move them to the full training so they can dive into it in full. Now, to make this cross stream possible, a tool that I like to use is called Restream. This will be linked in the comments in the description below of this video for those that want to check it out and grab their free trial to test it out themselves. This is a tool that I use for the majority of my live streams, especially when it comes to guest trainings and interviews, as well as any lives that I want to cross stream to multiple channels at once. And at the click of a button, just like in this example here, let's say I'm going live on 3 reasons why your leads aren't converting into clients. When I go live on this, I can easily, at the click of a button, say, okay, I want to stream this to my profile. I want to stream this to this group. I want to stream to this group. I have a couple different in here, one being a test. But the point is, at the click of a button, I can cross stream to 3, to 4, to 5, up to 15 platforms at once, depending on what I'm active on, and get that many more eyeballs on that one live video itself. So that's a wrap of these 3 simple ways that we're repurposing content in our business right now, and 3 ways that you can go out and implement today to start getting more eyeballs on those assets that you're taking precious time and energy to create, so more traffic can come into your business, into your conversion process, and ultimately allowing you to nurture more people, build deeper trust with more people, and enroll more clients into your program. Now, with this topic as a whole, there's a variety of other examples I can get into when it comes to repurposing content. These are just 3 that I find myself doing most often right now with where we're at in business and the channels that we have and are active on at the moment. As we continue to grow and add on more platforms, we'll continue to leverage this more and more and more. And what I encourage you guys to think about to close out this video is look at the content that you're creating, written, video, short form, medium form, long form, and think about how can I pull out a piece of this and use this for another post type itself. So for example, we're gonna be eventually getting into Twitter down the line in the future. If I'm putting out a short form tweet, that short form tweet of a thought of mine that I had maybe after a coaching call or sitting down in the morning having my cup of coffee, and I share that short form tweet, that 1 to 2 to 3 sentence tweet could just be one Twitter post itself. But I can also take that short Twitter post and make a quick vertical video talking for 60 seconds on that exact thing that I mentioned in the tweet, sharing that on my story. And this is how we can think about just small ways that we can leverage our time more efficiently by taking the small assets we're creating and flipping them into other assets to drive more traffic back to where we want to drive traffic to itself. So consider this within your business going forward. I know we're going to be doing a lot more of this going forward as well, and I'm going to be sharing more on this here in the channel, as well as inside our coaching programs and paid products. So for those of you that want more training like this video that you saw here today, if you got value from this one, number 1, be sure to smash the thumbs up button before you go. Hit that subscribe button before you head out so you're not missing out on any future content that we drop on this channel. But if you're not a member of our Facebook community yet, and you want a more inside look at some insider content that we produce just specifically for that community with in-depth live trainings on topics just like we talked on here today, be sure to click the link in the description below, get your invite to our group, join the group, and we will see you on the inside. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you back on the next video.